O flower of Scotland, when will we see your like again, that fought and died for your wee bit field and glen?
In ancient time, walk upon England's mountains green, and was the holy Lamb of God on England's pleasant pastures seen.
1900 years ago, the Emperor Hadrian built a great wall to separate the Roman Empire from the savage Scots, dividing Britain in half from coast to coast and creating a border between two fierce rivals. On this side of the border you'd find England, the nation that invented the game of rugby. And on this side you'd find Scotland, where the game of rugby sevens was created just a few miles up the road at Melrose. Rugby Sevens Worldwide spans this ancient border as the HSBC Sevens World Series reaches its climax in Glasgow and London. The Scottish border town of Melrose will forever be known as the birthplace of rugby sevens, after the club organised a seven-a-side tournament for local teams 130 years ago to raise a bit of much-needed cash. It lends its name to the trophy presented to the winners of the Sevens World Cup.
The Melrose Club is a little older than the Sevens are. The idea, credited to the late Ned Haig, was to run a football tournament with several teams taking part in the one afternoon, and with a reduced number of players. So the seven-a-side game was developed from there.
This summer, sportsmen and women from over 70 countries will travel to Scotland to compete for medals at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, an event Scotland's Sevens coach Stephen Gemmell is hoping can grow the game in the host country.
The Commonwealth Games is massive. We've got a great chance, over the next few months to promote rugby sevens and highlight the fact that not only was it invented here, but we can compete with the best teams in the world. So that's what I'll be aiming to do over the next few months, both in terms of selection and preparation, and then it'll be down to the players on those 2 days at the end of July.
Glasgow is preparing a warm welcome for 6,500 athletes. Teams from Scotland, England and Wales will compete separately in the Rugby Sevens, just as they do in the Sevens World Series. But in 2 years' time at the Olympic Games in Rio, things will be different. In September, Scots will vote in a referendum to decide whether to become independent from the rest of Britain. If they vote to break away, they could compete in Rio as an independent nation. If they vote to stay, they'll have to compete with players from England, Northern Ireland and Wales as a British team. At a crucial moment for Scottish rugby, we arrived at the Glasgow Sevens in time to meet two local legends best qualified to speak about their sport, the Hastings brothers.
And a move in midfield with Gavin Hastings bursting through, the Scottish captains. Scott Hastings goes for the line, steps inside Mark Ellis, and that is another try for Scotland.
No, the referendum's a sort of separate issue as far as I'm concerned, and Scotland still has a right to compete on the stage, but I'm a great believer. Both Gavin and I played for the British Lions, and that was as proud a moment.
And we're on the brink of a big few years, aren't we? Not just for the sport, but for Scotland, because as you mentioned, the Commonwealth Games is coming. What is that going to do for rugby sevens in Scotland?
There's going to be a huge audience there, and I think the players will be inspired by playing in a very tight soccer stadium.
I've seen mediocre performances from Scotland over the last few seasons. We're now just seeing an improvement. It's one step at a time, but there are some great young players out there, and I think we must expose them to this world game.
And both of you now have travelled around the world with rugby. What has impressed you most about this series?
Rugby Sevens is like the 2020 cricket, and it's got an ability and an opportunity to grow the game to areas that rugby could never have gone before.
Gavin Hastings was renowned for his prowess with his foot, but you won't find any time-consuming place kicking in rugby sevens, as drop kicks are used to keep the game flowing. Two players that know more than most about the art of kicking are England captain and this season's top scorer Tom Mitchell, and his Scottish counterpart Colin Gregor, who scored over 1,000 points in his career. Colin and Tom both take the kicks for their teams, so we decided to pit them in a little Anglo-Scottish drop goal competition.
This is my first kick from the right-hand touchline. Try's just been scored in the corner. I'm going to concentrate on a good drop, keeping my right hand at the back of the ball, trying to get my weight all the way through the kick, and we'll see how it goes. Bit of an ugly one.
First attempt from the far right touchline, so I'll give it a bash. Just shaved the outside the post, I think.
These are the kicks from straight in front. Should be the bread and butter kick, really. Might be last play of the game. You've got to get the winning kick.
Got to get that one.
That's 1 out of 2 so far. Last kick from the left-hand touchline. Couple of ugly strikes, first 2, so let's try and get a nice one for you. We do them all again. Oh, 1 from 3.
Third and final attempt from the left-hand touchline. Better pop this one over. Pesky wind, should know about it in Glasgow. 1 from 3 in the end, need to do a bit better, I think.
That brings an end to our Caledonian capers. It's time to head back down south across the border to London for the final tournament of the Sevens World Series to find out which team and which player comes out on top.
The final leg of the HSBC Sevens World Series takes us to the place some call HQ, Twickenham, the home of English rugby. The crowds arrived to support their chosen team in the knowledge that New Zealand or South Africa would take home the top prize.
The series would conclude with a presentation on the pitch to bestow honours on both the top team and the Player of the Year. So let's take a look at the nominees.
Tom Mitchell has been pretty amazing for England. He's been appointed captain, he's the playmaker. Everything goes through him, whether it's in attack, in defence. He leads the team around, scores tries, but the most important for him and for England is his kicking game. Whether it's restart or conversion, and that's what took them to the Hong Kong final.
Here's trouble!
Tim Mickelson is by far probably the fittest player on the World Series. He just doesn't stop running.
Here comes Mickelson, the long stride. Then you see him bring it in towards the easier conversion.
He can play in the backs, in the forwards. He's just as good wherever he is, really.
Samisoni and Fiji have come out to make a statement of intent here.
Samisoni is just like Fijian rugby at its best. He's fast, his turn of pace is crazy. He can make a break in 3 or 4 strides, and then you can't catch him. He just scores tries for fun. Kyle Brown's been outstanding really for South Africa. They've reached 4 finals in a row. He's the main reason for that, really. He plays in the forwards, which doesn't get all the glitter that the backs get, but the work he does is just amazing, and he allows the space to be created out wide. Tim Mickelson would be the easiest choice. As a curveball, I think Viri. Yeah, he's like a perfect sevens player.
And to find out who was crowned Player of the Year, you can log on to our website at cnn.com/rugby.
And so to the main business at hand, let's round off our HSBC Sevens World Series with a double field report, starting in Glasgow.
In front of a home crowd, Scotland got off to a flying start, topping their group and beating South Africa in the Cup quarter-final before losing to Canada in the semis. And in the final, series leaders New Zealand triumphed against Canada in what became a very one-sided affair, with the All Blacks crossing the try line 8 times. seeing off the Maple Leafs 54-7.
So New Zealand will head to Twickenham, needing to go one better than South Africa in order to win the series.
South of the border, 75,000 fans sold out Twickenham Stadium for the first day of action in the final tournament of the HSBC Sevens World Series. Once again, home advantage worked its magic as England topped their group but narrowly lost to Australia in the semis.
Great try.
They had to settle for compensation in the form of a third place after winning the playoff against Fiji. And in the final, Australia took on New Zealand in one of the most entertaining games of the series. The Wallabies raced to an early lead and looked comfortable at 21-7. But 2 quick tries just before the break helped swing the momentum in the All Blacks' favour. In the second half, New Zealand ran in 5 more tries to secure a 52-33 victory and the HSBC Sevens World Series title.
Not many times do you ever win a world title, you know, and that's another world title. And for some of those guys, it's their first world title. I've been lucky enough to be involved with them all, and DJ's been in 7 or 8 of them, you know, but some of them, first one up, so that's a memory I'll never forget.
So a final haka brings an end to the HSBC Sevens World Series, but not an end to CNN's Rugby Sevens Worldwide.
Join us next time for an eye-opening trip to Brazil, where a dream team of Sevens coaches takes the sport to the favelas ahead of Rio 2016.
We leave you with scenes of celebration here at Twickenham. Goodbye.